Hey makeup friends, it is the beginning of July, which means that BH Cosmetics has recently released their newest in their Birthstone collection. For the month of July, that birthstone is Ruby. Let's get into this. As always, I want to welcome you back to my channel, or if you are new here, then hello and welcome. My name is Kara, and on my channel, we like to mix beauty, brains, and the occasional F-bomb. Obviously, I'm wearing Ruby on my eyes, and on my lips, I'm wearing a gloss from Juvia's Place in the shade Bronzed Sugar. So what we're going to do in this video, I'm going to give you a little bit of information about the palette. We're going to do some swatches. We're going to do a comparison to the January birthstone, which was called Garnet. Then we're going to do the eye look, final thoughts, and then we're going to finish. All right, so basic information about the Ruby palette. It is available exclusively on the BH Cosmetics website, and it retails for $9. Like all other BH products, this is vegan and cruelty-free, and it also has a notation on the back that it is clean. I've said before, if you have specific concerns about specific ingredients, always check the brand's website because they're going to be able to give you far more information than I can. All right, so I'm sure you want to see what is inside, and here it is. So like all of their other Birthstone palettes, you have a 7-pan palette with the Birthstone shade being the feature shade here in this largest pan. Again, like all the previous palettes, there is a mix of shimmers and mattes and one pressed glitter. In this case, the pressed glitter is the red shade down here. Now, for my own personal tastes, I would have preferred if this red had been represented in the ruby shade. Not a pressed glitter, but that color. I was really expecting that the ruby shade was going to be a true red, and I'm a little bit disappointed with this because it does have very strong pink undertones to it. However, we are going to get into the swatches, and I'm going to compare the swatches with the Garnet palette. All right, so there we have them. Garnet is this one, Ruby is down here. They're most definitely not dupe palettes, but you can see there is quite a bit of tonal similarity, especially in these two shades here. There are differences, but they're pretty minor. So I'm a little bit disappointed. Well, you know what? I'm a lot disappointed by that. I really am, because I was expecting that Ruby was going to be a bright cherry red. And frankly, back when Garnet launched, I was expecting this to be a deeper, more moody red. All right, I said I was going to compare these palettes, and in looking at them, I really don't think there's much in the way of overlap in the smaller pans, but certainly that larger pan, like I said, are very similar. So I am going to swatch those two side by side. And I just have to pay attention to which finger I use to pick them up because I always mess myself up. Okay, all right, so this one is from Garnet and this one is from Ruby. So when I flip them, Garnet is going to be on top, Ruby is the one on the bottom. So you can see there is some difference. Ruby is a little bit deeper, which strangely I find a little bit odd because in my mind, rubies are a brighter red and Garnet is a little bit deeper. I'm not a gemologist. I don't really know these things, but that's off the top of my head, that's what I remember about that. I don't know. Anyways, there you see them, but both of them do pull very pink. And I do want to swatch the shade Witty from the Ruby palette and compare that to Garnet. It is most definitely different, so that is reassuring. So the one on the very top is the shade Witty from the Ruby palette. This is a comparison of the matte browns that are available in each of these shades. So this one is the shade Proud from Ruby, and both of these are from Garnet. This is Loyal and this is Works It. And you can see that there's really not much in the way of overlap between these. I thought these two might look a little bit more similar just based on how they look in the pan, but the one from Garnet is definitely more red based than the one in Ruby. And then just for the sake of completeness, there they are swatched out. So again, these two are from these two are from Garnet, and this one is from Ruby. All right, and with the comparisons out of the way, I want to go ahead and just swatch the entire Ruby palette. Normally I stand up and just have my arm in frame, but My back is doing a lot better. It's still a little tender, and that always like creates a weird position that I have to stand in order to do it. So we're just gonna do it on the arm here, and I hope that that's okay. And if it's not, I apologize, but it's what we're gonna do anyways. So let's do this. All right, the first three shades then, we have the shade Ruby, which is a metallic finish, and then Sparkly, which is this really pretty shimmery gold. And then we have a matte shade here called Fun Gal. Wow, straight lines are not my forte. I can hear a lot of thunder outside, and I'm really hoping our power doesn't go out. Let's boogaloo. All right, the next shade is Proud, another matte. Then we have the last matte, which is called Honest, followed by the last shimmery shadow, which is called Witty, and then Drama Queen. Oh shit, my bad. Well, sorry. Drama Queen, the pressed glitter. That was an absolute disaster of a swatch. Here, there we go. So there are all 7 shades in the palette. As you can see, it is quite a pink palette. And I really thought with a shade name like Ruby, it was going to be more ruby. Call me crazy, but I thought that that's what we were going to get. It's not to say that I dislike the colors in here. It's just not what I had anticipated. Be that as it may, let's see how it actually applies to the eyes. Here we go. All right, so I have already primed my eyes with the Sigma eyeshadow primer in the shade Persuade. So then we are just gonna go straight into the palette, and I'm gonna start And I have a nice fluffy brush here from BK Beauty. This is the 201, and I'm going to use that to pick up the lightest matte shade in the palette, which is called Honest. I'm just going to apply that into this area here, the transition area, and blend it sort of back and forth and just buff that shade out. You can see already that this is blending really nicely. I'm not seeing any patchiness or any little stubborn spots, and it is quite pigmented for being a light shade. So I don't feel like I need to go back into the pan to pick up more. I think it's pretty built up as it is. One thing I would note about this shade is that it looks fairly sandy brown in the pan, but it does apply a lot more peachy. So it does pull the pink undertones out once you're blending it. Just wanted to make note of it because it does look more brown just looking at it, and certainly in pictures as well. All right, I was just completely incoherent while talking about this shade right here. So we're gonna replicate it over on this eye. I used this brush here from What's Up Beauty. It is the R105. And I went in with this matte shade here, which is called Fun Gal. And I'm not entirely sure how to describe it. It's sort of a reddish kind of brown. It reminds me a little bit of that Color of the Year from a few years ago, Marsala. It's like a pinky, reddish, brownish something, I don't know. It's pretty. Let's apply it. So part of the reason why I was so incoherent on the first eye was that it was me just saying, holy crap, she packs a punch. So I'll just say it once. No, I'll say it twice. It packs a punch. This shade did not come to play, that is for sure. Like, I do not need to dip back into that pan at all. And again, there's no patchiness to it. It's blending out really nicely. I can't see where I initially touched the skin with my brush. Like, it's not stuck in that one place. It's a really nice smooth application. And as you can see, she packs a punch. There, I said it 3 times. Come at me, bro. It's fine. I'm going to leave the lower lash line for now because I'm not entirely sure if I want to go in with that deeper brown or if I want to stick with this shade I've just applied. It's going to be a game day decision. I'm not there yet. So for now, we're going to go in with this large pan here called Ruby, and I'm going to apply that over the outer probably 2/3 of my lid. To apply it, I'm going to use this brush here from What's Up Beauty. This is the R106. Now what I like to do when I'm first trying out a shimmer shadow is I like to apply it just dry, see how it does, and then test it with a little bit of setting spray to see if it has an impact. So I've just picked it up dry here, and I'm just going to pat it, like I said, along the outer probably 2/3-ish of my lid. You can see that it is catching the light, but I expect that if I use a little bit of setting spray, that's going to become so much more intense. So I'm going to do that in just a moment, but I am going to apply it to the other lid first. And now I will go in and just boost it a little bit. Yep. As expected, that takes it to the next level for me. Then I'm going to take a smaller flat shading brush. This one is from Odin's Eye, and it is the FR5 brush. And I'm going to pick up this shade here called Witty. It's another shimmery shadow, but a little bit lighter in tone than Ruby. And I'm going to apply that to the inner portion of my lid. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to apply it dry, and then I'll kick it up with a little bit of setting spray, again, just to see what kind of impact that setting spray has on it. From just looking in the mirror at this point, it looks like a matte shadow, even though it's clearly not. So I'm hoping that the setting spray is going to help. All right, moment of truth with this one. Let's see if that has made any difference. Absolutely has. So I think setting spray is definitely the way to go with these shimmers. There we go. Okay, for my inner corner, I'm going to go in with the shade Sparkly, which is this shimmery gold shade. And I'm going to pick it up on this brush here, which is again from What's Up Beauty, and this is the R101. Now this one is applying really nicely, even though it's dry. So I'm really impressed with that one. I don't even think that I need to punch that one up. No, I'm happy with it dry, so I'm just going to leave that one as it is and go ahead and finish off the other eye. Now, while I'm tempted to bring that pink matte down under my lower lash line, I'm going to use the dark brown because I do want to use all of the shades in this palette. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to pick it up on a MAC 221 brush, and then I might use a little bit of the pink just to buff it out a bit. Now, obviously it's a little bit harder to really get a sense of how a shadow works when you're just putting it under the lower lash line, but haven't had to go and dip back into the pan. You can clearly see it under there. It's not just blending away into nothing, and yet it is still blending out nicely. So I have no complaints about this shadow. But to balance things out, I am going to bring a little bit of that pink underneath the eyes, but what I think I'm going to do, just so that it's not such a strong contrast with the dark brown, is I'm going to go back into that initial shade, Honest, and I'm going to use that one because it does pull so like peachy pink. I'm just going to use the same brush, and then that's going to help those two shades sort of blend into each other. And I'm just going to apply it just a little bit lower than where I put the dark brown. There, I think that just helps to soften that dark brown out, but also brings a little bit of that warmth down underneath as well. There we go. Okay, now like I said, I do want to use all of the shades, and that's going to include the pressed glitter over here. This is called Drama Queen, and it is a cherry red pressed glitter. Now I've said in previous videos, only use a pressed glitter if you are perfectly comfortable doing so. I've never had an issue with it before personally, so I feel comfortable using them on my eyes, but that is just one person's opinion, so use your own discretion, do your own research on that. Okay, I expect though that this glitter is going to perform as they have in all of these other birthstone palettes, meaning I can probably just pick it up with my finger and apply it that way without even having to use a glitter glue. So we're going to put that to the test. I'm just going to pick it up on my finger. So it is a really pretty glitter. Kind of wish it was a super foiled shadow and not a glitter, but here we are. It is a really pretty color. So I have to figure out where I'm going to put this shiz. And I think I'm just going to put it towards the center of my lid, and then if it looks ridiculous sitting there by itself, I can apply it elsewhere, but let's just lightly pat that along the center area. And yeah, it is not one of those glitters that just like flakes away. It does have a fairly sticky base, like already in the pan. And I've never really had any experiences with it just like falling down on my face, even when I don't use a glitter glue. I think because it has such a strong like sticky base to it, you can't just like apply a sheer wash of it. So I think it looks a little silly just sitting by itself. So I'm going to pick up a little bit more and then just negate the entire effort of putting that shimmery shadow on first. But you know what? Here we are. It's okay. And I'm not worried about being too precise in terms of where it goes on the crease. I have hooded eyes, so it does not matter. It will transfer up. It does not matter what I do. So I'm not going to get super fussy if there's already glitter above that crease line, because give it a minute, it's going to be up there. It's totally fine. It's kind of like the perk of having curly hair is that it's guaranteed to look messy, so I can just lean into it. It's all good. All right, so those are the shadows applied. I'm going to do mascara and liner, come back, and I'll give you my final thoughts on this palette. And here is the final eye look. For my winged liner, I used the Tom Ford Eye Definer pen. For my waterline, I used Alkaline from Urban Decay. And then for mascara, I used the Upswing from Bite Beauty. All right. Final thoughts on this palette are that the quality is there. These perform as I expect from BH Cosmetics. The mattes blend out really nicely. They have good color payoff. The shimmers are a little bit on the disappointing side, but once you use some setting spray, that rectifies the problem. No issues. The gold, I think, is the winner of the metallics in this palette. I didn't have to use a setting spray on it, and I think that it is very impactful once applied. I could honestly do without the pressed glitter, but I'm also not a pressed glitter hater. I don't love them, but I don't like get upset when I see them in a palette. They're just really one of those things that if they just ceased to exist, I probably wouldn't even notice. They're just not a product that I'm ever thinking about when I'm doing my makeup. I never apply eyeshadows and think to myself like, hey, pressed glitter would really round this thing out. Like, it just doesn't occur to me. But when I'm presented with one in a palette, I'll use it. Like, I don't get upset about it, but it's just not my preferred formula. Be that as it may, here it is. I suspect they're going to continue to including one in every one of these birthstone palettes, so I've got 5 more coming at me throughout the rest of this year. I'm gonna have to get over it. I do think, though, that they have missed the opportunity here with the overall color story. I just think this is very much pink. I don't know why they would go with that. Perhaps, and this is just pure speculation, because these are vegan products, maybe it's harder to produce that red pigmentation without the use of carmine. However, they've put red shadows in other palettes that have performed and kept that true red intensity. I'm thinking in specific with respect to the Lunar New Year palette that they put out back in February. The reds in there are beautiful. They are impeccable. They could have replicated it here, and I know that because they've already done it. So I am a little bit salty about the red shade in here. I do think that if it was more true red, it would have been a better representation of the birthstone. If I can remove the birthstone element from it though, and just look at this as a collection of 7 shadows and just not even worry about the theming of it, it's not a disappointing palette. But if you're looking to pick up this palette because it's your birth month, or you love red, or you just are passionate about rubies, like I don't know what their reasons are, but if you're buying it because you want a ruby-esque palette, I think you're gonna need to look elsewhere. I'll just put it that way. From a quality perspective, I have no complaints about this palette whatsoever. I just, for my own sake, would have liked to seen it a little bit more red. For my own personal taste, I can separate the theme from the palette. If I want to do an eye look that's going to look this way, you know, a bit leaning on the more reddish pink side of things, this palette's going to get it done. I have zero complaints about the actual performance and quality of these shadows, but the reason why I'm harping on it so much is because this is a themed palette. So I am not only reviewing the quality, but I'm also reviewing the whole thing as a packaged unit. And BH has put it together as a ruby palette, and I think that they've missed the mark in that sense. In no way am I saying that I dislike this palette or that I'm disappointed in the actual experience of using it. It's just the color is a bit off in my estimation. All right, I think I have beat that particular horse well beyond the grave, so I am going to wrap the video up here. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch, and I will see you in my next one. Until then, just be a decent human being. Bye for now.